Every successful organization begins with its people. At Incredible Workplaces, we help you build workplaces that inspire, engage, and endure. Recognition starts with certification. Our globally benchmarked evaluation celebrates organizations that foster engagement, inclusivity, and innovation. Certification is more than a badge. It's proof that your culture empowers people to. Are you ready to transform your workplace into a beacon of excellence? Partner with Incredible Workplaces today.
Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's session hosted by Incredible Workplaces. Thank you for taking time to join us today. The topic for today's discussion is three P's: people, performance, and profitability. And I don't think there could be a more relevant conversation for business and HR leaders today. In boardrooms, we across the world we discuss about organizations who are more focused towards growth, productivity, innovation, and profitability. Yet behind every business result are people. People who lead teams, serves customers, solve problems, build relationship, and drive innovation every single day. This is why the most successful organization no longer view people and profitability as separate business priorities. They understand that business success is built on the foundation of a strong culture, engaged employees, capable leaders, and high performing teams. The question is no longer whether people impact business performance, but the real question is how can organization create an environment where people thrive, performance accelerates, and profitability follows. That's exactly what we are going to explore today. We will discuss how leaders can build high performing cultures, create accountability without compromising engagement, leverage people strategies to drive business outcomes, and prepare their organization for the future of work. To help us unpack these ideas, we are joined by an exceptional panel of HR and people leaders from the UAE who bring a wealth of experience across industries, cultures, and business environments. I'm excited to learn from their experiences and perspectives, and I'm sure our audience will also be. So, without any further ado, let me introduce our esteemed speakers. Let me begin by welcoming Vineet Kumar. Hi,
Hello,
Vineet.
hi. Hi,
Hello.
Vibha. How are you doing? Thank you for having me on today's webinar.
Thank you, Vineet. For our audience, Vineet is a seasoned HR leader with over 15 years of experience in strategic HR management. His expertise spans analytics, workforce planning, performance management, talent acquisition, and employee engagement. What stand out about Vineet's work is his ability to connect people strategies with measurable business outcome, and that's what is required from HRs nowadays, right? Welcome, Vineet, once again, and we're delighted to have you with us today.
Thank you, Vibha. Lovely intro. Thank you.
Joining us next is Prachi Dhor. Prachi is a HR professional based in Dubai with a passion for building positive workplace cultures and supporting organizational growth. With a background that spans HR, hospitality, and operation, she brings a practical and business focused perspective on creating workplaces where both people and organizations thrive. Welcome, Prachi.
Thank you, Vibha. Thank you for having me.
Next, we have Sumit Anand. Sumit is the group head of people and culture at Lifecare International. He brings extensive experience across HR and learning and development. He has worked closely with leaders and teams to drive engagement, capability building, and organizational transformation. We are looking forward to hearing his insights on building high performing culture. Welcome, Sumit. Um, Sumit, are you able to hear us? All right. Till the time Sumit comes back, we've been choosing our next speaker, which is Mr. Omar. Omar, it's a pleasure to welcome you today.
The pleasure is mine. Glad to be here today. Hello, all.
Thank you, Mar.
Hello, Omar.
All right. For people who do not know Omar, Omar is a people and culture leader with more than 17 years of experience working across multiple industries and regions. He is known for helping organizations scale through data driven people strategies, leadership development, and digital transformation. Welcome, Omar. We are excited to have your global perspective in today's discussion.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And finally, we are delighted to have Mr. Manjeet Sahota with us. Manjeet is the head of human resources at Gulf Catering and Support Services. With extensive experience in facility services, hospitality sectors, he has built a strong reputation for driving performance, strengthening people practices, and supporting business growth through his effective HR leadership. Welcome, Manjeet. We are pleased to have you join us today. Manjeet, are you able to hear us? I think there seems to be some challenge. Manjeet and Sumit, let us know in case audible to you. All right. Till the time this gets settled, I would like to thank all the speakers today for being here with us. We have an incredible panel audience, and I'm sure that you are looking forward to learning a lot from their experiences and insights. So let's start the conversation. And Vineet, I would like to start with you. You have worked extensively across people analytics, workforce planning, and performance management. And you have also seen firsthand how people's strategies can influence business outcomes, right? So, given your expertise, can you share an example of how a people focused initiative directly influenced business performance or business profitability?
Yeah, sure. Uh, okay, to start off with, I think one of the biggest mindset change that we as HR need to make is stop asking, how do we make employees happier? Uh, I'll tell you an example from one of my previous organizations, how and what we did. A few years ago, this was during the post-COVID era, and businesses started to pick up and the markets were booming. There were a lot of well-paid job opportunities out here in UAE. And what happened was we started facing a very expensive problem, which was attrition. It was not like people were leaving, but not just the fact that people were leaving, but the critical people were leaving, which created a productivity issue for us, especially for an industry like ours, where we closely work in manufacturing. So by default, the HR response, like in any other organization for us also was, let's quickly hire a replacement, fill the role externally, and move on. Because if people are leaving, then compensation must surely be the issue, right? Because yeah, that's what people mainly leave for. They leave for better salaries, better money. So we straightened out the comp and ben. It was a while also since we did some salary surveys and market surveys. So we straightened out the comp and ben, thinking that that would solve it. And we thought it was possibly the lack of cultural programs, cultural engagement in the company, and we brought in a lot of that, fun engagement programs and for staff and all that. But still, all of these efforts did very little to stop that erosion, and the rehiring costs just kept on increasing. So what we did was we dug deeper to find out what actually is the root cause of this, and we asked ourselves, do we actually have a compensation issue, or do we have a work design problem? Are people actually leaving us for more money or for better jobs and better working conditions? So full workforce study was done, a work design review was done of each and every role that we had, especially the critical roles where the attrition was high, on things like workload and utilization of manpower, and uh, how does this relate to our manufacturing KPIs, and duplication of tasks and overtime and all of this. And what we found was that departments were not adequately staffed in the first place against the output that we had given them, against the KPIs that they had to achieve. And this sometimes gets lost so much because we think so much about budgets and we think about outcomes that we somewhere down the line we forget that to achieve this output, how much of manpower do you actually need? And because of this, there was obviously pressure on the other people. Similarly, supervisors or people on an executive level spending too much of time on admin work, paperwork, instead of managing all the operations, um, um, uh, that was also creating an issue. So there was a lot of duplicate work that was happening across the functions. This person also does it on the system, the other person also raises it on the system, so there is always a data entry duplication or some sort of a redundancy that used to happen. So all of this was basically flattened out. We removed the frills, we redesigned the work roles and critical roles, and we removed the overlapping of the responsibilities. We removed the unnecessary approval layers within an organization. Sometimes we ourselves forget how many layers of approvals we have. You know, there's a line manager, then there's a line manager two, then there's a general manager, then there's a CEO, and then it goes all the way to the owner signing probably a leave form. You know, so we just used to different layers. We automated the reports, we gave the employees much more clear responsibilities, and all of this basically actually, to our surprise, what happened was within a couple of months this time, the productivity and the output started improving. The engagement overall was improving because workload became fair. The overtime dropped, and eventually attrition improved. So when attrition improves, obviously that is cost improvement as well because hiring costs are lesser. So to summarize, before we ask our people to do more work, uh, this is the work that we have and you should be doing this, and we don't have any other option for you. You know, before we impose it on our people, I think we should first ask ourselves whether we have designed that work practically enough for people. And that was probably the best takeaway from that.
Thank you, Vineet. I think that was a great example of how aligning right people initiatives can create a difference in business, right? I think listening to employees is one of the key criteria and key, I would say, thing that will impact, because if you do not
Absolutely.
know the root cause and how many initiatives you launch, I think they're not going to yield any business profitability, right? So listening
Absolutely.
to your people is really, really important. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And Prachi, I would like to bring you into this conversation now. UAE is one of the most diverse and multicultural work environments in the world, right? Which present both opportunities and challenges for the leaders at times. So, working in a multicultural environment, what are some of the most effective ways organization can align people, culture, and performance towards a common business goal?
Hey, hi, Vibha. Good evening, everyone. In the biggest strength of any organization is diversity, but the real challenge is turning that diversity into alignment. So, to align people, culture, performance in such an environment, I feel there are three key elements, which is one should be clarity of purpose, where our JD comes into place. I should managing expectations on their job role. It's really really important from the beginning. So employees must understand how their work contributes to the business goals. And second, from as HR perspective, the inclusion of the employees in culture. So in multicultural, people don't want to be just managed. They also want to be feel uh, valued. They want to feel belong, that they fit into that environment, so that they see their future in the business goals too. And and then third is consistency in people practices, where from communications to recognitions, and in that consistency build trust among employees, and then that trust drives performances. Joining these three key elements, then diversity doesn't becomes an issue. It becomes a strength of any organization.
Yeah.
That
I
was my takeaway from my previous experiences in multicultural or different nationalities.
Uh, very well said. I think that's really valuable that, if you align your diverse team to a common purpose, is when, your organization will thrive. And I think one more important point here is when you have diverse team, knowing each other's culture is also very important, right?
Yes,
Knowing and respecting each other's culture so that you are familiar that when you are communicating with cross functionals or cross cultural teams, how you collaborate well, because without collaboration you won't success in whatever you want to achieve as an organization.
yes.
So yeah. I remember in our organization we have diverse. We are spread across the globe, right? So whenever there is a new joiner, they undergo a cultural training where they're getting familiar with how to interact with people in different regions, and what are their gestures, how to interact, how to communicate with them, how to collaborate with them. So these kind of trainings are really really helpful. So thank you for adding that perspective. All right, thank you, Prachi. Now I'll move on to you, Sumit. And one theme that's emerging out of this conversation from our discussion is also towards performance, which is closely linked towards growth, development, and culture. And Sumit, you have spent years helping organization build capability, unlock potential across team and leaders, right? Employees today seek continuous growth and development. How can organization create learning cultures that not only engage employees but also contribute to build strong business performance?
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone. Look, I think part of the answer is in the question itself, and you said it, creating the culture that directly speaks to business performance is the key. The landscape of learning is shifting quite a bit, and I think we all know who's to blame for that. With the advent of AI, every person has, at their disposal, personal learning concierge. I think AI tools, LLMs can decode for us, decompose for us, and present it to us in a format that we like. So I think we all know about those tools, but particularly learning in organization, I think the golden rule is it should not exist for its own own reason. It should exist because it's actually moving the needle. It's actually helping the business perform better. So if we look at learning initiatives as performance enablers, learning should basically prepare the organization for tomorrow. That is, I think, that's the one thing I would leave everybody with is if your learning is preparing colleagues for today, I think it's not fit for purpose. If learning is preparing us for tomorrow and working very closely with the business needs and the emerging skill gaps, that is the name of the game.
I agree with you, Sumit. And I think most of the organization at times fail in terms of, engaging people through those initiatives. How do they identify any, ideas that you want to throw to people that these are certain things that they can, take away from this conversation, implement in their organizations as well, so that their learning capabilities and all those are also forming to organization success as well?
Yeah, I think as mentioned by a couple of panelists earlier, I think it all boils down to the creating the culture of trust in the company. If we are able to create by role modeling trust, if our leaders really enjoy leadership, if they care for people, then all of these things come quite naturally, isn't it? I mean, people and performance are not diametrically opposite ideas in good organizations. Good organizations know that usually there's no trade off between focusing on people and focusing on performance. It's
Yeah.
people who deliver performance. So, high trust, honoring psychological contracts, and ultimately, people will pick on what we do, not what we say. So,
Yeah.
we as leaders are always under that spotlight. We have to role model all the behaviors, and yeah, I mean, it's all of that. People and performance are two sides of the same coin. you take care of one, the other will, the other will yield some dividends.
Very well said. I think I take with this point that uh, leaders have to be role models who have to execute their behavior so that people can learn from that. And one thing
True.
that comes to my mind when we're talking about learning and development and preparing future workforce, I see a lot of time there are team members who are resistant to change, right? In this ever evolving world nowadays, I think people should be more open to at times unlearning things and relearning.
Yeah.
I've seen examples wherein employees are hesitant in terms of taking new skills. So for example, if uh, somebody is expert in Python and there is another work that's coming in maybe Java, they would not want to learn that. They say, no, this is my skill, I've learned this, I want my project in certain skill only. But I think there has to be an openness in mind also, and that comes when you create a culture of trust, that if you learn something, and at times unlearning is going to really help you. So when people trust their leaders, I think they are more open towards learning. So
True.
organization need to create that kind of space for their people. Thank you, Sumit. Let's now turn our attention to the bigger picture of people strategy and business growth. And Omar, with that, I'll ask you this question because you have led people function across multiple industries and geographies, giving you a unique perspective on what truly drives organization success, right? So, in your experience, what do you believe is the most critical factor in transforming people strategy into a driver of business profitability?
Yeah, so throughout my career, I've worked across very different industries and across very various countries, from North and West Africa, construction sites over there, to infrastructure in Lebanon, and the live events and entertainment sectors in Dubai. After all of that, my answer to what really drives profitability isn't a policy or a system, it's culture. I think also Sumi touched bases on this in the previous question. There's a philosophy that I've learned recently and constantly follow, and it is leaders create culture, culture drives behavior, and behavior produces results. So when the culture is right, performance follows, and profitability becomes a natural outcome. Let me give you a real example that happened to me back in my earlier careers in Guinea Conakry, where we were mobilized to a project in distress. There were delays in project deadlines. The HR department was a mess. It was chaotic, with almost none of the formal systems or policies working. On paper, we should have struggled and failed, but that team actually outperformed far better resource points. And it's not because of what we had, but it's because of we trusted each other, we shared ownership, we had the willingness to serve and support each other, and nobody waited for a title to make a decision. And this back then was embedded in the company's culture. Back then it was called Teo. And this is what the project director pushed for. And that really stayed with me. So when you ask me this question, what turns people into profitability, I point three things. First is clarity in decision making. People perform better when they know who owns a decision,
Yeah.
who contributes, and what success looks like. Secondly, is accountability and trust. People take ownership when they feel safe enough to speak up, when they are challenged, where they learn from their mistakes. In my opinion, trust takes time, and this is I always say it to team members, especially to new teams that I lead. Trust takes time to happen. However, it's us as leaders, we have to design a system for trust to strive. And lastly is collaboration over hierarchy. This is a must. None of us are the smartest person in the room, regardless of your title, of your position, regardless if you're a COO or a COO or a CHRO. We are not the smartest person in the room. So we need to trust in our teams teams perform better when expert team members matter, their ideas matter more than the titles that we bring into the conversation. So the bottom line here is that when decisions are clear, execution speeds up. And when you capture opportunities before your competitors do, um, uh, your trust is high, and your best people stay, and you avoid the very real cost of losing those best people. Um, so all of this summarizes my philosophy that I have discussed earlier, which is leaders create culture, culture drives behavior, and behavior produces results. And once the results are produced, this obviously brings profitability and drives the performance up inside the business.
Yeah, thank you so much, Omar. I think very valid points. I think at times, the kind of trust that you build in an organization plays a very, very important role. Whenever we are, as a leader of the organization, are setting goals for the organization, I think we should not only communicate goals to the people, but we should also tell what, as an organization, we are trying to achieve, right? And how whatever they do as an input every single day, how it is contributing towards organization success.
Exactly.
So
The
those
best.
kind of conversations should always happen with the employees in the organization, right? Wherein you're telling how your business is doing, taking them, making them accountable for certain things. So these are some of the best practices. Thank you for bringing them up. Manjeet, I'll now like to bring you into this conversation, and you have spent years helping organizations drive performance while managing realities of service oriented and people intensive businesses, right? According to you, if business leader could focus on just one people strategy to improve organizations performance and profitability, what would you recommend and why?
Well, good evening, everyone. If I have to answer this question, let me put two very iconic leaders, their people strategy. Lee Iacocca, who actually revolutionized, who is known for Ford Mustang, his philosophy for people was I hire brighter people than me and then get out of their way. Yet another very important and iconic leader of Virgin Atlantic, I'm sure all of us use his people policy day in, day out, who says that just take care of the people and then they take care of your business.
Absolutely.
Rightly so. See, machines, technology, that can be copied, but the commitment of people, that's what actually sets your organization apart. So if I have to answer this, if I have to use one people strategy which can directly transform into performance and profitability, I would call it employee engagement. I would cite our company's example. As I said, I'm in this organization for 15 years. We have seen changes in the organization in terms of management. We have seen ups and downs in terms of profitability, and hence I can clearly see the linkage and talk. Our current CEO, Rami Suleiman, he believes in the similar kind of approach as Leo Koka. He doesn't believe in micromanagement. Of course, one strategy doesn't fit to all. Probably you go to have a different strategy of engaging managerial level to the operative. But I think to a great extent, our organization has utilized the employee engagement. I'll cite you some example. A few years back, we were facing challenges in terms of profitability and cash flows. And one point which was very, the people who are in UAE would understand, if there are delays in administration work, then there are numerable fines. So I have put forward, the company or the management has put forward very open employee, very openly explaining to the management, and management has done to the people. So in HR, all my team members are very well versed with what is to be done. in terms of their own respective role, and they vouch for it and they control the cost. Wherein from last 2 years we have zero fines, and it is the starting point was the open communication to all the team members. We have done the similar thing in our location level staff as well, all the operatives. We employ something which we call as employee engagement calendar. Every month we organize some functions for them pertaining to their interest level. What we do is at every yearly training retreat, we use our senior leaders, location managers to chalk out this employee engagement calendar. And every month we use that. We use this to gauge the pulse of the employees from the actual case scenario. When we are talking to them, we get to see what their feedbacks are. And those points, we take it up in our staff welfare committee. The members of committee will put forward the request of all the employees, what they have seen that in the engagement, and if there were any concerns, they will record it. What we try to do is towards the next session of this employee welfare committee meeting, we first start with the minutes of the meeting of the previous one, and then what action the management has taken. And our CEO takes initiative to see what action have we taken for the previous observations. So it's a very ground, hands-on approach which we follow. Integrity is one of our core competence in our company. Our operators, especially the head of operations, he truly believe in fact, his WhatsApp message is also on the integrity. What he believes is integrity is something which you do your work as if nobody is watching you. And that sets apart those people in terms of employee engagement. We have seen our team transforming in the previous few years. From a loss-making company, we have become profitable. So I can clearly see the linkage of employee engagement, whether it is on the shop floor or at the management level. And now we have our clients which are happy, we have our team which are happy, and we have even seen that in the attrition. So attrition used to be a real serious concern for our company, which is reduced. So in a nutshell, I could say that the employee engagement is something which clearly any business leader should take into consideration if they're looking for the performance enhancement and profitability.
Thank you, Manjeet. I think when you were speaking about your CEO, I was reminded of how our CEO also works. You know, he has same strategies like you. And when we talk about employee engagement is no more having only fun activities. It is beyond that, right? Uh, one is one valid point that you said that while we are doing surveys or collecting feedback from our team members, I think most of the organization do not take next steps of communicating what has come out of those feedback or those surveys, right? And what are the actions that you have taken? At times, it's not necessary that you work on every feedback that has come through. Maybe some may take some more time, some may be not be even possible to make a change. But communicating it openly is something that shows the value of the organization and leadership. I think that's a very valid point when you bring onto your people, and you make them more accountable, you make them feel empowered when you come back with these kind of initiatives. So thank you for adding that. We have questions from our get like our audience also, and I would ask our audience to put any question that you want to ask our speakers today. I have a question around AI, and this is from Manan and Sumit, because you spoke about AI. I would like to ask you this question that he asked that with AI and automation reshaping workplaces, how can organizations ensure technology enhances rather than diminishes the employee experience?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So look, AI is very much the defining theme of our lives for last 1 year, and will continue to be so. Many sectors, including my own, we are feeling the ground shift beneath our feet very much in the in the direction and the vector of automation, in the direction of rewiring, reimagining, reworking the workflows, how work gets done. So I would say that if we treat AI like electricity and don't treat AI like another software or app, we are on the right track. Okay, I'll give you an example. A few days ago, I got a message from the toll company Salik. They sent me a message saying, Sumit, your car insurance is due for renewal. Salik, the toll company. Yeah, exactly. Click here and we'll walk you through the next steps. Ergo, I did that within a few clicks. And all this is happening over a period of seconds, right? I saw my policy, everything was pre populated. You know, the Liva, the insurer, Salik, everything was there. Within 2 minutes, I had my policy document in my hand, and all this took less than a time for me to even like get up from my seat and even look at this. Double click, wallet, everything paid. I have my policy in my hand within minutes. Until last year, this process would have involved me going somewhere, taking a token, sitting, and spending a better half of my Friday or Saturday. So that's an example of how AI can really, really blow up all assumptions and really bring us into a new world. So it's not going away. We have to treat it like electricity. Like 200 years ago, the age of steam was over and the age of electricity transformed the world. AI is going to do all of that. So, what this means for us, we have to now start getting hyper focused on skills, competencies, qualities, attributes that make us more human. So, anything in terms of if your job role can shift towards intuition, judgment, decision, discretion, all of these are amazing threads that will protect you for years to come. Thank you.
Love that, Sumit. It was a fabulous example to relate with, and I think with this changing time, of course, AI is coming in, and we need to learn a lot of skills and all those things. But I think you touched on the heart of it that we need to also be more human. Love that conversation. All right, I have another question, and Vinit, I'll ask you this one. Akash asks that as organizations scale rapidly, how can they preserve their culture while continuing to drive profitability and operational excellence? At times, we have seen, uh, I think there, Vinit, are you there? There's some network
Yes, I can
challenge.
hear you. Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So at times, what happens is organization focuses a lot on profitability, which at times take toll on people. There is a feeling of burnout, right? So please help us address this question: that how can they preserve culture while even driving the profitability and operational excellence in their business?
Okay. Profitability, ROI. If you ask me, profitability is a downstream outcome of the execution quality of all the amalgamated events that we do for our staff. So execution quality is basically again driven by the capability, leadership, and engagement. So something that I've noticed in organizations is uh, we as HR tend to drive culture in organizations, whereas I'm from the school of thought that culture is not just an HR's responsibility alone. Culture is something that should come from everybody in the organization. It should be embedded within the organization. So if you ask me in terms of the leadership, the middle management leadership, okay, this is one area where we see a lot of the the this I consider as my biggest engagement lever for employees. Why? Because when the culture is given down from a manager to their employees, from their line managers directly handed over to their employees, that is when they actually begin feeling trusted, begin feeling heard, begin and when they are properly trained, that is when they actually feel that they are heard, they are valued in the organization, and they need to stay. And those employees which feel trusted, which heard, those are the employees that last longer in the organizations. So like I said, to summarize, culture is not a top-down approach. It is something that's embedded into each and every person who handles people, who manages people in organizations.
Yeah, well said. At Incredible Workplaces, we also have master classes around workplace culture, right? And this is one of the things that we talk, that if you want to build culture in an organization, that doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of time, right?
Absolutely.
And it does not happen that HR will just teach around culture and print it on the walls, give emails around it. I think it has to come through the behaviors of leadership, right? You have to
Absolutely.
reinforce it again and again. You have to tell people stories. What actions are demonstrating the values of the organization? And these are certain attributes which they display to have these kind of values. There's a lot of work that needs to be done around values. So thank you for adding that question. And I have another question from Dr. Asta Diwan, and Prachi, I'll put this one for you. She asked that what is your view about employee assistance programs which are designed to take care of employee well-being? What do you think about it?
However, I would like to see the question. What is view speaker have about employee assistance programs which are designed to take care of employee well-being? We all are working in this very fast-paced culture where, and especially in these days, everyone has become a machine, and that's where employee well-being comes into picture. And as Mr. Sumit Anand mentioned, leaders should be enjoying their leadership role. I love that line, and that's where my role comes into. When I see in my organization, it's a very small organization, so small firm. It's a taxation where all of these very crude people, they don't have this, very less human, more on numbers, more on this, and where I come in that picture, and I feel like there is some now the engagement is required. Now they need that relaxation break. And how we recently done a sound healing program last Friday for all of our tax agents, and after that break they realized, oh, they needed that. Sometimes you get burnout but you don't realize it.
Yeah.
So that's where my CEO realized that yes, work is important, business goals are important, all the targets, yes, we have to achieve. But sometimes that's what which we did this sound healing program. That also comes with the well-being program where my CEO, which it's like that decision has come down to the picture. Okay, no, the well-being is also important, where employees feel that okay, my it's not only the pressure which is coming from the numbers, it's my mental health has been taken care in the organization. They tend to retain the, you can control the tension there, it will be more. So yes, I would I just wanted to continue with the same line again, where I step ahead, that leaders should be enjoying the leadership. And that's where we propose the idea to the CEO, and then that's how I get it. So that's what my answer was, like, that's meant, it's very fast paced time, where especially in my industry, where people are working with the number and what targets and everything, that is very, very important, which gives them a break from work, from achieving targets, to just to less burnout,
Yeah.
give
Thank
them
you,
just.
Prachi.
Vida, can I add a point here to the EAP program, if I may?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Prachi, very nice. Well done. I really liked your feedback on this. I'm going to touch bases on this because I value this a lot, EAP plan and employees' wellness. And one thing that is important for the employee assistance program is to focus on the holistic approach. Because there's a general misunderstanding that, okay, when we talk about EAP programs or well-being, we only focus on mental well-being, while it's more, we need to look at it at the holistic approach. So once we look into EAP plans for employees and for the organization, we need to focus on various pillars. So whether if it's mental well-being, whether if it's physical well-being, maybe it's legal well-being or financial well-being, or cultural, the environment that we live in. Some people, they do well under, thrive well under stressful situations. While you have employees who's good, everything is fine, but he has problems financially, which will impact his performance and impact his well-being. So it's always good to look at it as a holistic approach and to have a holistic when you plan to when you decide to follow a plan, follow it holistically to cover all types of well-being and not only a simple one, which is the mental well-being.
Yes.
Thank you for adding that, Omar. And one thing that is coming quite often from this conversation is that how your CEOs are coming forward and helping HRs and building all these kind of initiatives. I think this also lands up that culture is not just something that HR talks about. Nowadays, business leader and CEOs very well understand the importance of having the culture in the organization, right? Because it's not only impacting the people, but actually impacting the business growth. All right, with that, I'll move on to the next question. And this is an interesting one. And Manjeet, I would want to put this one for you. Neeraj has a question, and he says that is attrition good or bad?
I think it's a very nice question. Whether attrition is good or bad. See, it's always good to have a healthy attrition. Healthy attrition would imbibe new people, new blood, new thinking, new processes. However, if the attrition is very high, then obviously it affects the bottom line, because obviously you would be ending up, especially in scenarios like UA, wherein you need to attach a new recruitment along with a visa, so that visa cost needs to be taken into consideration. And businesses like us, which are very people oriented, wherein there is huge number of people especially working on the entry levels, if the attrition level is high, obviously it is no good. But yes, to companies where there are technology requirements, where people tend to it's a very normal thing that people would want their growth. So if they are looking for growth and that it does not coincide with their benefits which they get, and they get somewhere else a better package, obviously they would leave. They would leave there for better positions. They will leave for better orientation in terms of industries and better learning. However, I strongly believe that it has to be controlled and monitored. So if there is attrition which is within the range which you see, which is happening with your competition, which is happening in your organization as per the normal trend, then I think this is very much okay. But if there is much beyond the numbers which affects you, both technologically, your experience and expertise are going out, then there is a concern. And also, I think one very important point which one all the industry leaders must understand is they need to follow the trend. If all of a sudden people start leaving you, then there is a concern which the HR as well as the business leaders have to dig deeper into it, the reasons for it, and why people have all of a sudden started leaving. It could be newer companies or newer competition coming up, and then you are not catching up with the package, or not you are not able to retain, or there could be many situations. For example, as Omar said, we got to have an holistic approach in terms of looking at the attrition as well. So yes, there is people working in the organization would leave. However, we need to control and monitor it.
Yeah. I think when we talk about attrition, we can not just only say that it's good to have or not good to have, right? At times there is a healthy attrition, and that's required for organization growth, right? So yes, it depends on what kind of attrition is happening in the organization.
I
But
would add here also, Vidya, Divya, to be very honest, there is again voluntary and involuntary. So our concern, especially an organization like us, we focus more on voluntary resignations and the levers and the attrition. Involuntary, there would be at times whenever there would be a situation where a contract is lost, for example, there would be attrition, and that's pretty okay. This is understood. And also people who come here for 2 years, 4 years contracts, and then they're leaving with the contracts ending. So that is not something which is a concern. Concern would be, as I said, then when it is exorbitantly high, or then if the trend has all of a sudden made something in terms of higher numbers of attrition.
Yeah. Dr. Bandaru also mentioned that low to moderate attrition is equal to generally healthy attrition, I think. And high attrition is something usually a warning sign requiring investigation into pay, management, culture overload, or career opportunity. But if this is bothering you, I think you can connect with Incredible Workplaces team and they can definitely help you see areas that are really concerning around the workplace. All right. Now we are very close to closing the conversation, and before we do that, I have a rapid fire round for my speakers, and I would ask you one question. You have to be very quick and precise in answering this. As concise as it could be. So, Omar, my first question to you would be on rapid fire is that what's one people-related investment that organizations should prioritize in the next 12 months?
Uh, it varies between organization and organization, actually. For me, is well-being and engagement.
Okay, thank you. Prachi, what is one leadership behavior that has the biggest impact on both employee performance and business success?
Recognition. Recognition
Lovely.
of their efforts. It can be monetary, it can be inmonetary, but recognition.
Yes.
That really drives their performance.
Great. Vineet, in 1 minute, what is the most important thing leaders should focus on today to strengthen the connection between people, performance, and profitability?
Not one. I can actually name three. One is the quality of the line managers that you hire, because you're actually handing over your new recruits to your line managers, and you put all your blind trust in them. So the quality of the line manager that they'll be interacting with is number one for me. Number two, opportunities for internal growth. One of the strongest engagement interventions that I've seen in organizations, companies that internally train their staff, allow them to show their loyalty to you back, and consistently keep moving them up the ranks based on their performance. Nothing works wonders like this. And third, recognition. And when I say recognition, it's just not, okay, good job, you've done great, but recognition based on business outcomes and results. uh, uh, Good job, yes, but why? Because your efforts has helped the company achieve reduced production wastage to 8%, say 10%, because your efforts have helped boost sales by 10% this month.
Yeah.
So those are my top three.
Thank you so much. Sumit, if a CEO were listening to this discussion today and asked, what's the single most important thing I can do to strengthen the connection between people, performance, and profitability? What would your answer be?
To be relentless in giving clarity and direction to the business.
Wonderful. All right. Manjeet, for you, the question is, what's one people practice or workplace habit that organization should stop doing immediately if they want to improve performance and profitability?
I think sticking to very stringent KPI monitoring. I think there has to be openness, there has to be clarity of giving the KPIs or performance management, KRAs. However, stringent monitoring, instead of stringent monitoring, there has to be more openness and giving the approach of training and development.
All right. And this question goes for all the speakers, and maybe one point that you would want to share is, what is one misconception organizations still have about relationship between people and profitability? What's that one misconception? Anybody can answer.
Yeah, if I can chime in, look, I think it goes back to my earlier response. These are not ideas that are, opposing, or there is no trade offs between all of them. all of this is rendered through people. And if we have nailed the people aspect right, if we are motivating, creating the right environment, success is imminent. There's no other option. So that's my take. Thank you.
Uh,
I would like to
yeah,
add here. Thanks, Sumit. I would like to add here. I think one misconception I would imagine most, management would consider for people linking it to the performance and the profitability is that you expect the or anybody to be motivated all the time. I think there is a always a motivation graph depending on the timing, depending on somebody can have a bad phase of time and it can motivation can go up and down. They could be he could be busy with something which come up to his personal life which would be probably affecting him. So I think one thing which the leaders should also to be mindful of is I think we need to be accommodative of the motivation graph which can go up and down. And we are fortunate, like if I may say, in our organization, yeah, in general, our approach is to be accommodative with our team.
may I add also here that sometimes some companies or some leaders they don't interrelate people performance and profitability, and actually they are not competing priorities. So they are interrelated. So when the culture is right, performance follows, and when you have the performance, the profitability becomes a natural outcome.
Thank you, Mar. Any one of you want to add anything? All right. Great. I think this was such an insightful conversation and discussion that we had today. This conversation is a reinforcement that a powerful truth is that people are not just part of business strategy, they are business strategy, right? Uh, we should not align business strategy separately and people strategy separately. They are one. Whether we talked about culture, engagement, leadership, learning, technology, or performance, a common thread emerged, and that was organization achieve sustainable success when they create an environment where people can do their best, right? When they work with their full ability. And on behalf of Incredible Workplaces, I would like to sincerely thank our panelists today for sharing their experiences, their perspectives, and sharing some real time stories that they have experienced in their career. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. We hope the ideas shared today through this session were inspiring. These conversations are really, really meaningful. And take your action from here and implement within your own organization to see the real difference, right? Until next time, keep building workplaces where people thrive, performances excel, and profitability follows. Thank you and have a wonderful evening ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Vipra.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.